Today we're heading out to the shop and I'm going to make a cutting board that's not a cutting board.
Think about that. That's just dumb.
This is the Old Guy Network.
Yep.
A friend of mine called me last night, and he's a photographer, and his name is Josh. He's a great guy. He actually helped me move that in here, so, owe him a favor. He said that he wants to do some food photographs, and I thought, hey, great, so why are you telling me? Well, he needs something that looks like a high-end cutting board. It doesn't even have to be a real cutting board, just something that looks like a high-end cutting board, and I'm gonna make cutting boards, so that's going to help me out. It's going to help him out because I don't know how to make a cutting board. I've looked at lots of videos and I'm going to try to figure this out for myself. But I do have to make a jig to do certain things with the cutting boards. So I'm going to make him a cutting board that's not really a cutting board, but it's going to look like one. You follow that so far? And then I'll be able to make my jigs based around that. So the first thing, do not make your cutting boards the way I'm using the materials I'm using, because it's incorrect. Okay, that's the first thing I want to say. I have a lot of oak pallets, have a lot of oak on them, and I'm going to use this because it is a hardwood, and I do want to use a hardwood, which is what you need for a cutting board. But you don't use oak apparently because it holds on to bacteria and stuff. I don't understand. The cutting boards I want to make eventually are going to be maple and well, probably walnut. So nice high-end or higher-end ones. But we can make the same thing with the oak and what little bit of maple that I have. And I'm just going to prep these boards, get them ready to go. And I'll show you how I'm going to make a cutting board. All right? So the first thing that I'm doing is picking out some pieces of wood. I got this from my scrap pile. I brought these in last night so that they would dry a little bit overnight, and they're pretty good. They're good to go. Some of these I've already planed. Some of these I've already put on the joiner. Some of them I have not. What I'm going to do now is just put these on the joiner, get one side nice and flat, and then do the edging on one side. And then we'll run them through the planer that I just got. There we go. And then we'll cut them down to size. Now I did get a little snipe at each end of the boards, and that's to be expected, I guess. But what I'm going to do is saw these up now, get these to the right height, and when I go to cut these, I'll just not include the snipe. That's pretty simple, right? Okay, I've got all those prepared, but it's still not wide enough. I want to make it 10 inches wide, which means I want to make this at least 11 inches so that I'll have room to play, as they say. And this, yeah, we're not even 7.5 inches. So I'm going to have to do up a few more boards, and then we'll move on to the next step. It was not an easy job trying to find dry boards in here. I've got to move a bunch of these inside, I guess. But I've got this just over 10 inches, so about 10.5, almost 11 inches wide. And tragedy, look at this. I didn't even know that was possible. I don't know how that happened, but now I have to find another tape measure. But for right now, I mean, it's 10 3/4, somewhere around there. And it's over 14 inches. Even though this isn't going to be a real cutting board and I could get away with using the cheaper glue, I'm going to use Type Bond 3 It is the ultimate wood glue, as it says right there, must be true. And it is waterproof. It's for exterior and interior use. And it is the most used glue for making cutting boards. So I'm going to use that just because I want to get used to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is organize these into some kind of pattern. I really don't care what the pattern looks like because, like I've said before, this is a faux cutting board. But I want to make it look as close to the real thing as I can, but I don't have a whole lot to work with. These are all roughly 1/2 inch wide. If I was doing this for real, I'd want some, inch wide, 1.5 inches, a few inch, 1/2 inch, maybe some 1/4 inch, that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm just gonna put this together the best way it fits and just glue it all up. Now I'm noticing that this glue is a lot runnier than what I'm used to. So I'm glad I used it because now I gotta get prepared to do these for real. And I even had some glue spreaders, some actual glue spreaders. I can't find them. I don't know where they are. So I'm just gonna do the best I can with scrap wood. All right, I'm gonna have to reorganize this because I'm getting glue all over my table saw, and that's not a good thing. So I'm gonna have to figure this out, and I'm just gonna go ahead and glue these up best I can, and we'll come back. All right, I've got all the glue applied to this one section here, and I don't have a whole lot of clamps, so I'm going to have to do this one section at a time. Try to get off as much excess glue as I can. All done, when this is all finished drying, I'll take a scraper and go over the edges just to get the glue off, because you don't want the glue going into the planer. You really don't. There is one section, and I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll do the other section, and then we can go ahead and put them in the joiner again, and then glue those two together and put that in the planer. Quick update, I found another clamp. Use more clamps if you have them. I'm going to wait for this to dry, and then I'll get started on the other side. I'm going to let this dry overnight because we are having an unusually warm spell. Right now in this shed, it's almost 70 degrees, and I haven't put the heat on. I think my thermometer is off, but it's about 55 out right now, but inside the shed is quite warm. I don't know why. But it should be okay for this, so I'll leave it overnight, and we'll come back to it. so much I don't know about making a cutting board. And we're going to get into everything I did wrong in just a few minutes. But I should really run that through again so I get the saw blade burn right there. I'll just run that through, see if I can get that burnish off there just a little bit. Other than that, I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with this. And I mean, it doesn't look, on the surface, doesn't look too bad, but there are a lot of things wrong with this. So I'm going to see if I can correct some of this, and then we'll just sand it up. And remember, it's not a real cutting board anyway, it's a prop, and this is my first attempt. And I did a couple of things. I did several things wrong. And that's why I do this, and that's why I used wood, so I can learn from my mistakes. And it's nice to learn from somebody else's mistakes, and I like to do that as much as possible, but sometimes you just got to do them yourself, so you remember them, you retain, the problem that you had. So there's several things. So I'm going to see if I can trim this up a little bit. And that's where I stopped. Yeah, I didn't even finish sanding it. Yeah, a lot of things I don't know about making a cutting board. Even though I've watched some videos, there are a few things that they don't go over. And just like this one here, I'm going to show you what I did wrong, or tell you what I did wrong. One of the things I did when I did it in two pieces, I made it in two pieces because it was a 12-inch wide cutting board, or just under 12 inches wide. I have a 6-inch joiner. I wanted to make sure I had a nice flat surface on both of them and then join them together. Now, the first thing that I did wrong was I didn't edge the board afterwards, the two pieces. I didn't edge them correctly, so I didn't have 90 degrees on both. So when I put it together, it made the board a little cupped. The other thing was I didn't have enough clamps. I just don't have enough clamps. When you glue those pieces together, you not only want to glue them together side by side like you saw, but you also want to have a board across there with a couple of clamps at least, just to flatten the board out. That way you don't have as much, of the excess to take off, either with the joiner or the planer or whatever. And when you put a cupped board in the planer, it still comes out cupped. So I only have a 6-inch joiner, so yeah, I screwed that one up. But I did learn what to do next time, and I do need more clamps, so don't try to do this with it. You don't have to have a planer, but it's nice to have a whole lot of clamps to make sure that you get everything glued correctly together. That's the biggest thing. And there were some places on there that it just didn't get glued. You can actually see daylight through it, through the slats. So yeah, that was my first attempt. Complete and utter failure. But that's how we learn, and that's how we go forward and make better and better things. The guy that I was making this for, he stopped by. He didn't like it at all. He didn't like the design of it. He didn't like anything about it. So yeah, it's going to end up in the fire bucket, the fire pit. But I learned what not to do in order to make a cutting board. When Thomas Edison was making the light bulb, he said, and this is I'm paraphrasing here. He said he went through 1,000 ways how not to make a light bulb, and then finally he got it right. So yeah, there you go. I'm not comparing myself with Thomas Edison, believe me, but I learned how to not make a cutting board. Now next time, hopefully the cutting board will be a hell of a lot better. I'm going to do another one up, and I'm going to use scrap wood again, just because I got to get to the point where I can get these things all squared up perfectly and flat, and not worry so much about the sanding and all that. I got to get them to a point where I can make it look like it's supposed to look, and that's what I'm going to do next. So I've got some things to get. I've got to get some what have I got to get? I got to get clamps. Yeah, I definitely need more clamps. Also, I need a
larger router. I was going to try to make a juice groove into this one, but my little tiny Dremel plunge router, that's not going to cut it. The juice groove is just way too small. So I do have to get another router, and then I'll be in pretty good shape. Not too bad. And I have some pretty good ideas on how I'm going to make these in the future. So that's it. How not to make a cutting board. That's going to be the title of this video too. So that's going to do it for me, the old guy. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I do appreciate it when you come to the Trailer Hood. If you like the video, if you got anything out of it, now you know how not to make a cutting board. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, do all that good YouTube stuff, and I will see you back here next time. For the Old Guy Network, I'm the old guy, and I'm out.